The sequel to The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild is the official 20th Zelda game in the Legend of Zelda series, and a direct sequel to the most successful Zelda game of all time, Breath of the Wild, with its 200 Game of the Year awards in 2017 and 2018.
Initially planned as ideas for a final third DLC pack of the Breath of the Wild expansion pass, the concept continued to grow considerably both in scope and ambition, so much so that before the release of Breath of the Wild in 2017, the decision was made to turn these new ideas into a full-blown game. Quote series producer Eiji Aonuma, "When we wanted to add bigger changes, DLC is not enough, and that's why we thought maybe a sequel would be a good fit." End quote. A sequel that would reuse Breath of the Wild's open-air engine, plus map of Hyrule, and once again be produced by Eiji Aonuma and directed by Hidemaru Fujibayashi. As stated by series producer Eiji Aonuma in one interview in the name of the Zelda team, quote, "One of the reasons we wanted to create a continuation was because I wanted to revisit that Hyrule again and use that world again, while incorporating new gameplay and new story. Something they definitely have delivered on so far and will do until the release, and who knows, perhaps once again adding DLC later down the line. Giving us a rewarding experience at release and after we have finished the quest set sometime after the liberation of Princess Zelda by Link, her destruction or sealing of Calamity Ganon, passing of the spirits of King Rome, and the 4 champion pilots. Oh, and Zelda and Link setting out with their horses to Zora's Domain in the true ending of the game. Even so, Hyrule could not be restored to its former greatness as long as the source of the calamity, and with it malice, remained present."
Thus, Link with Princess Zelda, who had cut her long golden locks, entered the underground cavern system built by the presumed Zonai civilization, which mysteriously disappeared in the distant past. Both of the survivors of the calamity had the same aim, to locate the source of malice, which turned out to be Ganondorf, as warned by the spirit of Gerudo chief Urbosa, a notorious Gerudo male king, who had in his past pursuit for the Triforce brought the kingdom of Hyrule and his own Gerudo tribe numerous times to their knees. Until he failed to reincarnate, as his previous defeat against the spirit of the hero in the distant past ended up with him being sealed deep beneath the ground. From here, it is presumed that he unleashed at least 2 calamities, one which failed and the final one which nearly succeeded. Now the hunter 100 years ago is being hunted by the former prey Link and Zelda, but with his last moment awakening, managed to confront the spirit of the hero and the blood of the goddess to escape and bring Hyrule Castle and rip a number of other locations out of the surface and high up to the sky. In the process, the glowing right hand that had kept Ganondorf sealed caught Link while he leaped to save Zelda, who sadly could not be rescued. Instead, the green hand merged with Link's right arm in the now famous thumbnail of the first look trailer.
This is the information that Nintendo teased with when the sequel to The Legend of Zelda was first announced and revealed during Nintendo's E3 2019 Direct on June 11th. Well, that and sharing the following quote regarding its contrasting dark nature compared to Breath of the Wild. The new Breath of the Wild, or the sequel to it, it's not necessarily going to be related to Majora's Mask or inspired by it. What we showed you currently is a little darker. End quote. In other words, a darker title than the game which explores the fall of a kingdom and the death of approximately 90% of its inhabitants 100 years ago, bringing the Triforce of Power, Wisdom, and Courage back together for the 20th The Legend of Zelda title. For 2 years, speculation ran rampant, but the Zelda team only shared a few more details, if you can call them that. Like how the younger members of the team had played plenty of Red Dead Redemption 2 before the 2019 reveal, and that development was on track since it was resumed in November 2017 after the Breath of the Wild DLC, hence the reveal. Though it is also presumed that it was included in the Direct for a public hiring call in Japan that went up not long after E3 2019. Throughout 2020, with no E3 2020, series producer Eiji Aonuma in September only assured that development is still going on without any issues prior to revealing Hyrule Warriors: Age of Calamity. Quote, "Regarding the sequel, in order to make the vast world you enjoyed exploring in the original game even more impressive, the team is working hard on its development." Then, in the February 2021 Nintendo Direct, prior to revealing Skyward Sword HD, series producer Eiji Aonuma finally promised that the Zelda team and Nintendo would share more information about the game later in 2021. a promise they delivered on June 15th during the Nintendo E3 2021 Direct.
No treehouse gameplay session, no title reveal, but for a good reason, as the sequel to The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild will not release until 2022, most likely the second half of the year, as series producer Eiji Aonuma said the following after the trailer ended.
This time around, the setting for the adventure has been expanded to include the skies above Hyrule. We'd like to ask you to wait a bit longer. We're aiming for a 2022 release, so I hope you'll look forward to it.
In other words, the game is still far away from release, hence nothing to show in the Nintendo E3 2021 Treehouse session, as it is likely that this game will be the key game at E3 2022, where the expo will once again be physical. Expect a booth similar to the Zelda Breath of the Wild one from 2016, only with the many changes to the world of Hyrule demonstrated, as the list of changes is long, with confirmed skydiving gameplay in the sky on floating islands as the greatest new inclusion, a clear inspiration from The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword and now Skyward Sword HD, no longer dropping but leaping through the sky before unleashing the paraglider. Just like we did with the Loftwing and the Sailcloth when jumping off the Loftwing down to the different provinces of that game. And there are more connections, but which are spoilers to Skyward Sword HD, so let's save those towards the end of this video after a proper spoiler warning, so stay with us. In the 1 minute and 38 second long second teaser at E3 2021 and also first gameplay showcase, the Zelda team demonstrated how Malice restores its grip on Hyrule to an even greater degree with new monsters that are far more threatening than during the last 100-year-long occupation of the land. Combined enemy camps mounted on stone taluses, bokoblins with proper spiky horns in the same overworld, spiked helmet moblins, and new abominations underground. The Malice even targets Link, but his new glowing right arm repels it after becoming one with his hand. Not only that, by unlocking or adding new powers to his right arm, Link will be able to counter his enemies with a new arsenal of attacks. Instead of stasis, now we can simply time freeze objects and reverse them to strike the enemies that threw them at you. Though his left arm also has new functionalities, like this flamethrower dragon head shield, which is no doubt of Zonai origin, to burn up the lever, or the darkest incarnation of a wall master that we have seen in any Zelda game. Speaking of underground gameplay, as Zelda appears to be lost underground, though likely not dead, and could much like Ciri in The Witcher 3 have some gameplay sections of her own, as she and Link are likely to reunite at some point in the game, unless the freed malnourished Ganondorf goes after her and holds her hostage until Link confronts him in the final battle. Hopefully it is a format, as we would love to have sections of her fighting her way underground. It could be perfect horror or OP Zelda with her awakened Triforce gameplay sequences. But let's go opposite of being underground, namely to the sky sections, as beside the Hyrule Castle rising up scenes, that took up a big chunk of the second teaser. This third layer beside underground surface appears to replace the Sheikah Shrines in a gameplay structure and functionality similar to Skyward Sword's Silent Realms, a dimension detached from the open-air Hyrule and only reachable for Link by locating droplets that can send him up there. Much like the Eventide Island Shrine quest, where we were deprived of everything apart from the Sheikah Slate and its runes until we could gain some weaponry on the island, it seems that Link has to wear a very specific Zonai outfit, tattoos, with his long, unstyled hair in the sky, and only use some items that are obtained up there. Well, that and the paraglider, which now appears to be wind-based, much like the Coral Cleave in the Wind Waker. The same goes for his footwear, which is primitive and includes sandals that are very similar to the ones worn by Romans in our own ancient times. And with these limited resources, the hero of Hyrule will have to face new trials, though this time not underground, but in the sky, including against this golem-like spirit-powered or luminous stone-powered automaton. A test of strength, much like the Guardians found in the Sheikah Shrines. And obviously, this one is once again dragon-themed, tied to the deity of this assumed to be long-lost people, Farosh, the protector of Faron. Oh, and Zelda's lullaby at the end as a tease that she's still alive and down there, and will have a role to play in the sequel. New areas, weapons, new shields, new powers, and a new story that will take the world by storm in 2022. Just like the two teasers at E3 2019 and now 2021, and development updates from series producer Eiji Aonuma provides. Now, to conclude, let's go over to the Skyward Sword reference. Spoilers inbound from the end and early stages of Skyward Sword, since the first look teaser demonstrated Zelda and Ganondorf's ties back to Ocarina of Time. This one, however, demonstrated Link and Ganondorf's connection back to the first hero and demise, as pointed out by Ron Link in his tweet on Twitter. And that's it so far. Despite hopes for underwater gameplay akin to the one found in the upcoming Horizon Forbidden West, we still have to wait for confirmation of the sequel to The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild's ability to break this boundary, and naturally, getting the final title of this game. But until that reveal takes place, likely at the Game Awards 2021 or E3 2022, we'll continue inside Zelda Breath of the Wild 2 with theories, ideas, and speculation. So be sure to leave a like on this video, subscribe if you haven't already to Commonwealth Realm, and press that notification bell, and again for all notifications to not miss any future videos until the reveal of the final title of this game and its release in 2022. A big thanks as always goes to our great patreon.com/CommonRun patrons, and in particular to our royal producer Charles Shush. Anyway, please enjoy one or both of these two awesome videos.